Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture series of the ophthalmology. Today we are going to talking about a sclera and a limbus, which is a junction between the sclera and the cornea. So till now in the previous lecture we have seen about the corneal layers and what is the importance of the cornea. And today we are going to talking about the limbus and the sclera, which is the outermost part. As we know till now that eye is made up of three layers. As you can see, this is the black line covering all the structures. This black line covering all the structures. This is our outer layer. You can see this red layer, this middle red layer. It is a middle layer, and you can see this green line. This is our inner layer. So we know that eye is made up of three layers: outer layer, middle layer, and the inner layer. Now we know that middle layer is made up of a three structure. First of all, iris. This structure you see, it is iris. Then you see this is all ciliary body, and the most posterior part, it is the choroid. Now we know that ciliary body is divided into two parts. One is pars plicatum, which is the most anterior part, and second one is pars plana, which is the posterior part. And we should remember that this pars plana is relatively avascular than the pars plicatum. So whenever we have to inject something, whenever we have to give injection, we can give that injection from this pars plana part because it is relatively avascular. Now the innermost layer, you can see this green line, it is our retina. So these are the basics of the eye. Now today we have already learned about a cornea. Now we are going to learn about the sclera and the junction between the cornea and sclera, which is a limbus. So let's see the sclera and limbus. So now let's see the anatomy, the layers of the sclera and the limbus. So let's start it. Now sclera. Can you guess how many layers present in the sclera? We know that in the case of the cornea, there is a 6 layers. I hope you remember all. But in the case of the sclera, there is only 3 layers. Okay, in the cornea 6 layers, but in the case of the sclera, there is only 3 layers. And these 3 layers are above the sclera means episclera, second one is sclera proper, and third one is lamina fusca. So let's see the individual layers. Now, as we know that this is the outermost layer, this is the all outermost layer, black color. This is the cornea, and these all the structures which is lined at a cornea, it is a sclera. Now we know that sclera is divided into three parts. Sclera has a 3 layers. So you can see that the most outer layer, it is the episclera. Then second layer is sclera proper. This is episclera. This is sclera proper, and most innermost layer is known as the lamina fusca. Now, one thing you should remember that above the episclera, this is episclera, and above this episclera, there is one capsule present, one layer present, which is known as a Tenon's capsule, which is known as Tenon's capsule. And on that Tenon's capsule, this is our bulbar conjunctiva. Okay, so these are the basic layers of the sclera. The layers of the sclera is episclera, sclera proper, and the lamina fusca. This is our iris, this is our lens. Okay, so these are the layer of the sclera. Now let's talking about the pathology of the layers of the sclera. Okay, so when there is an infection, it may involve a episclera, it may also involve a sclera proper, it may involve a lamina fusca also. So when there is an infection, there will be a inflammation. Inflammation means what? Basically it is kind of swelling, and when there is an inflammation, there is going to be a redness. Okay, so in the case of the episclera inflammation, so we can call it episcleritis. In the case of the episcleritis, there is also redness present. In the case of the sclera proper inflammation, and it is called as scleritis, there is also redness present. So how will you differentiate whether it is episcleritis or it is scleritis? It is very necessary to differentiate between episcleritis and scleritis, because scleritis is most commonly associated with the systemic disease like rheumatoid arthritis and etc. So we have to differentiate whether it is episcleritis or scleritis. So let's see how it all differentiated. As we see, if the episclera get inflamed, if it is failed, it is known as episcleritis, means inflammation of the episclera. It will looks reddish in color. So how will we differentiate? We have to do a vasoconstrictor test. What we are doing in vasoconstrictor test? We are using a 2.5 percentage phenylephrine. Okay, phenylephrine is vasoconstrictor. So when we put a 2.5 percentage phenylephrine topically on the eye, on the episclera, which is the outermost layer of the sclera, the redness will be disappear. Why? When we put a phenylephrine on the eye, on the episclera, blood vessels will be constricted, and because of that, that redness will be disappear, because there is not more blood will present in the blood vessel because of the vasoconstriction. So redness will be disappear, and this redness of the disappear, this phenomena is known as blanching. So we can say that if it is a episcleritis, then blanching must be present. One thing you should always remember, that if it is a episcleritis, there is no tenderness, means whenever you touch the eye there is no pain, and it is in most cases it is idiopathic, means there is no any special cause. Now we are going to talking about a second layer, which is the sclera proper. I have tell you that there may be episcleritis or scleritis. In the case of the scleritis, you will see a violaceous color, but we cannot distinguish between this red and violaceous. Almost both look same. Okay. Now, if there is an inflammation of the sclera proper or infection of the sclera proper, there is scleritis. Now, if we do a vasoconstrictor test, there will be no blanching. Just think why? Because when we are doing vasoconstrictor test, we are putting a 2.5 percentage phenylephrine, but sclera proper is beneath the episclera. So phenylephrine, this phenylephrine cannot reach to the scleritis. Because of that, there is no vasoconstriction. Because of that, there is no escape of the blood, and because of that, there is no blanching. One thing you should always remember, that tenderness means pain on touching is present in scleritis, and no tenderness is present in the episcleritis. Okay. So if patient comes to you and he say that, sir or ma'am, I have pain in my eyes, you see that he is, all the sclera looks red. So you have some idea that there is a redness is present, and tenderness is also present. Tenderness means pain on the touch. So you can say that there is no involvement of the episclera, rather there is the involvement of the sclera proper, which is a scleritis. Now, as I have told you, the third layer. Third layer is the lamina fusca, which is the innermost layer. Now we are talking about the sclera, so we must remember that how many openings in the sclera. Okay, so there are mainly these three openings in the sclera. First of all, lamina cribrosa. What is lamina cribrosa? It is a sieve-like structure following optic nerve fibers to pass, allowing optic nerve fibers to pass. We know that optic nerve is formed from the third layer, retina, and it will go to the visual cortex. For passing, it is a sieve-like structure in the sclera, which is known as the lamina cribrosa. From the anatomy, with further videos we will know that there is a vortex vein. To pass this vortex vein there is also openings in the sclera. For the blood supply to the eye, there is some of the blood vessels pass through the sclera. So for anterior ciliary artery, veins and nerves, there is openings in the sclera. So this is the basics about sclera. Now let's talking about the limbus. We know that limbus is nothing but it is the junction between the cornea and sclera. So we can say that it is the corneoscleral junction. Okay, now what is the importance of the limbus? We should remember that limbus contains a stem cell. What is stem cell? Stem cells are pluripotent cells, means they can differentiate into any cells. They can pluripotent themselves. Okay, have the ability to differentiate. These stem cells have ability to differentiate. Now, what is the location of the stem cells? We should remember the location of the stem cells is palisades of Vogt. Now, what is the universal marker of CD34? Or what is the universal marker of the stem cells? It is CD34. But if we talk about the special limbus stem cell, the specific marker for limbal stem cell, it is ABCG2. So this is the only thing you should remember for limbus as far as the NEET PG next FMGV exam is concerned. Okay.